Hey, everybody, welcome to the Creative Collective where we think outside the box. This is our last official podcast of the year. It's been an incredible year, guys. I am super stoked to introduce my good friend and coach, Thomas Fanner. Thomas is a husband, father of three. He's a combat athlete and a former Division I strength coach. After becoming a father at 18, he's overcome the adversity of being pushed out of his son's life and has since then rebuilt a thriving blended family. In his 7 years as a public educator, Thomas saw firsthand the stark gap in real world readiness young men and women face today. As the founder of Dads Who Lead, his mission is to equip men to become the trusted and revered leader within their homes. He believes a powerful connection with the Father is the key for young people to make a successful launch into adulthood and the game of life. Thomas, welcome to the show, man. How you doing tonight?
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate the warm introduction, brother.
Yeah, you bet, man. I just wanted to say real quick, guys, I've been working with Thomas for over a year now, and our relationship has morphed. We were introduced by a mutual friend, who's also a mentor to both of us, I believe. And we went on this trip together and really didn't hang out and talk much, but Thomas kept in touch with me. He reached out to me a handful of times because I'd mentioned that I was having some struggles with my kids, and he reached out, and I was like, yeah, not the time. Timing's not right. And then he reached out to me one day, and the timing was right. And that's really what most things in life are all in the right timing. So Thomas hit me at the right day. I decided to have a listen to what he had to say, and decided to start working with Thomas. And he has basically really helped transform my relationship with my daughter and my son. My daughter's 23, my son's 16. I was having a lot of struggles with those my two kids. I was the lead follower, get out of the way type of dad, tough love, and sometimes you can use that tactic, but it doesn't work real well when your kids start getting older. So thank you so much, Thomas, for everything you've done for me, bro. Like you've changed the outcome of my future with my kids, man, and they respect me more, and it's just been such an honor to work with you, man. So I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Thank you, brother. And I appreciate the warm intro and testimony, but you're the one that's been putting the work, the boots on the ground each week, brick by brick, doing the work to level yourself up as a leader. So it's an
I
honor to
appreciate that.
see it in real time.
It's been fun. It's been a challenge, though. Thomas likes to challenge you. He's got to do it. He's got to push you a little bit. He always asks permission, but I'm the type of guy who's like, bring it on. Yeah, what do we got to do today? Like, what's this week? And sometimes the week turns into a counseling session about my business or challenges or struggles. But Thomas, can you give us a little background on yourself, man?
Sure. So I was a middle school PE teacher for 7 years. And in my time there, I worked with a lot of different types of kids. And, you know, my son, Charles, he's 16 now. So working with him, I felt like, oh yeah, I work with kids on a regular basis. I understand kids. I understand how to lead kids. Like I got this. And when his mom moved out of town, I had him full time. It was like, cool, even better, more time with him, more opportunity to coach his teams and be involved. You probably hearing my 1 year old in the background. She's having a good time spinning the recliner around in a circle. But it turned into Charles one day. I thought things were a little icy and I thought it wasn't too bad. And then one day in January, he went to school in the morning and called him after school, didn't answer, couldn't get a hold of him, got a message from his mom basically saying, yeah, Trey, yeah, you failed Charles, and so he's going to be coming to live with me now. And so he was
Mm.
gone. He was in a snap out of my life, empty bedroom in my home, and an empty spot in my heart, middle of the school year, and his 8th grade year. And as that 8th grade year continued, he struggled attending school out in a different part of the state with his mom. And I knew if I didn't make some type of change, some type of impact, I was going to have a high school dropout by Christmas of 2022. And so I had to look at myself as a leader and look at, yeah, there were some things I did well, but bottom line, it wasn't getting it done. I needed to connect with them in a different, more powerful way. And I had a lot of family members like, you've done what you can. Charles is, he's his own person. You're an amazing father. And I'm like, I don't care if I'm amazing. If I'm not getting the job done, what is it that I need to do to reach my son, to make sure that he's in a position to be successful? And so that's really how Dads Who Lead was started, was through my challenge with my own teenage son. And that evolution has allowed me to relate with other dads that are going through similar struggles.
Wow, man, that's a great story, man. I love that you recognized that there was something going on. You took initiative and you made a difference. You changed it. You changed the trajectory of your future, and that's basically what you do for other men. And I've been on a couple Zooms that you do, like bonus Zooms with your trainings, and I've got to meet some of those other dads, and it's been really cool to just to see other people's lives impacted as well. Tell us a little bit about what you do, like what your day to day is, and what your business, what your business model is, and what you actually do, on a day to
Absolutely.
day.
So, all right, come here, Leila. It's okay. Well, one thing I do on a day to day is take care of this one and my 4-year-old who's sleeping right now, and then my 16-year-old that's just wrapping up a wrestling tournament. But day to day, we've got a few things, right? So number one, I like to work with dads one-on-one coaching, because that's really, I believe, to really understand and help somebody get to where they want to go. I have to first understand where they are, and they have to understand where they are, and where they're trying to get. And if we understand those two coordinates, looking at the blocks and the things that we need to do in between is really like the third piece of the puzzle. So working with dads one-on-one is a big piece of it. I also have a podcast called the Dads Who Lead podcast. So that comes out mostly every week. Like this week, Christmas week, I probably won't get pushed out. But most every week we've got a new live podcast. I have like a lot of amazing guests. I feel like as dads, we're one of the most important coaches in the world. And so it's my commitment to bring the best coaches into the listener's living room, into their car, into their drive, so that those dads can start to become and learn from those great leaders. Ouch. Do you want down? No. Okay. In the summertime, we do father-son retreats, and that was really actually how the whole thing. That was the first onset of the coaching aspect for me, was those father-son retreats, and that's really about dropping into adventure with our kids and connecting through that pathway. And because I believe as men, we just connect so much better, going on an adventure elbow to elbow rather than just sitting across from the kitchen table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
as I get wrestled around here in the kitchen.
Yeah. And Thomas is what you're tell us a little bit about what you do. Like you do some jujitsu and wrestling, right? You were a wrestling coach in high school.
Yes.
How did some of that lead you into kind of what you're doing now? Or how did that impact, your life and
Yes.
what you're doing now with some of that stuff?
Lance, I'm gonna help her get set up with a bottle or something so that she
Yeah,
can
no
be all
problem.
right. I'll let you guys kick it around. Maybe you can come up with some questions. I'm gonna mute myself and so that I can hear the conversation.
Yeah, no problem. Sounds good. Anyone here, give me a 1 if if you're struggling with your children, have any struggles, and a 2 if not. You're full of it.
What's up, Lance? Sorry, man, I'm running
What
late.
is up, Damon? Not
Coming
much,
coming
dude.
live, coming live from my car, man. How are you?
Good. We're doing good, man. Thomas has a little 1-year-old. He's chasing around. It's his day with his kids. So we're just kind of asking a few questions. We're coming up with some questions to ask, and we're just getting started, really. Just got started
Awesome, man.
like 10 minutes ago.
Cool. Perfect timing then.
Yeah, good timing, dude. Yeah, Thomas is like, man, he's a rock star, man. He's really helped me with in my relationships with my kids. I was telling our viewers earlier, he's been a monumental part of rebuilding my relationship with my daughter. And so mainly my daughter, she's been a real pain in the butt. She's great. A lot of things though that Thomas taught me was like one of the hardest things. It took me months, guys, months. And as men, I think we're really stubborn, right? And he kept asking me, how much ownership are you taking on this? And I said, when we first started talking about it, I was like, maybe 20%. And then it went about 30 or 40 and then 60. And then by the time I was like a few months later, I finally realized I had to take complete ownership of the entire situation because it had a lot to do with the way I was teaching her and upbringing in her upbringing. So it was really a struggle. Like Thomas, he gets into some tough things, man, and that's the difference. Like he said, he's like, man, you'd put in the work. That's the thing. It's just like real estate or business or health or anything else. If you want results, you have to put in the work. So, when you're paying somebody to help you figure out parenting with your children, you might as well take it serious and put in the work, you guys, because you get what you put into it. It's just like anything else in life. And so, Thomas,
Yes.
let's just tell us a little bit about your coaching program, bro. Let's get into it.
Yes. So you had asked about a little bit about my jujitsu and wrestling.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you.
So my first year wrestling, I lost every single match. My junior year, actually, Gabe Hamill, our mutual friend, was one of the assistant coaches on the team, but I loved it. Like I felt like more connected in that space than I had anywhere else. So that was an opportunity for me to really transfer the spiritual and physical together. And so now I just got back from the Nogi World Championships, my first time competing there, and it's been a long journey for me, but it's a lot of fun. And that's now martial arts is a huge component of how my 16-year-old son and I have connected. Hi. Star of the show is back. Hi. Hi.
Yeah. She's so cute.
So
Yes.
yeah, so Thomas, man, tell me a little more about jujitsu, right?
Yes.
I guess we share some commonality. I always like to find like common spaces with people, right? So you can connect outside of just the professional world, but a little bit in like the normal day-to-day life. So I, much like you, started wrestling when I was 4, and I progressed to, like I wrestled for a year at the University of Central Oklahoma before I figured out I wasn't very good. And then, I started doing jujitsu a long time ago. I'm a black belt now, but I've been doing jujitsu since I guess 91, off and on, off and on. But I find that jujitsu speaks to me a lot in normal life, right? Like you get into those tough situations that you just don't know a way out of, and I guess you have to figure out, right, a way out, or a way to I guess like a way to deal with that situation. Like even if you're trapped under somebody 300 pounds, you're not out. You gotta figure out how to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Do you think that speaks to you a lot with what you do in the program that you do?
Yes, jujitsu. Actually, one of my coaches is like, "Hey, your program is going to take off when your jujitsu game takes off." Because I was stuck at blue belt for a long, long time, and finally, when I put together the piece of the puzzle that I needed and understood why I was getting stuck there, And it really came down to, hey, we need to be good at each step of the puzzle. Like, we got to be able to take somebody down. And once you take them down, you got to pass their guard. And once you pass their guard, you got to get yourself in a position to take the back. And once you take the back, now I've got to get, so it's like all of these systems have got to be efficient. And if there's one link in the chain that's weak, that's all it takes for the whole runway to get stopped. And it's the same way with being a dad. Sometimes it's not the things that we do great that make the difference, but it's it's avoiding a catastrophic mistake that can really make the difference.
Interesting, man. Interesting, because I like to you know, well, I like to think, I like to know, right, that you know, I say I've had, you know, I don't know about everybody else, but I know I've had a lot of failures in life. I've had some successes, but I've had a lot of failures. And you know, I grew up really hard, really tough. Man, I just a really tough background. And then, you know, of course, that progressed into the military, and you weren't taught anything different. You know, a lot of those bad qualities were highlighted in the military. Hey, that makes you a better warfighter. That makes you, you know, better at what we're trying to do. And you know, it's funny, those systems that you were talking about, like in jiu-jitsu, when you learn a bad habit, oh my God, man, it's so hard to break because it becomes a repetitive thing, right? And I'm wondering if it's a lot, you know, like a lot that way in normal life, you know, these habits that you learn as a dad or as a parent early on, as a person,
Yes.
right? They're so hard to visit and be truthful with and change.
Yeah. Damon, I'm really glad you brought that up, because there is this point in our journey where, because being in school, we're taught to be a follower. They're even military, right? There's one leader. I wasn't in the military, my dad was. There's basically instructions from the leader. This is how we need to execute. We're typically given pretty clear directions, and we're what I call a role character. We're not the one making the final decision. And school gets us really good at being a role character. And it also subconsciously gives us a leadership style that if we're in charge, the other people underneath us just need to do what we're saying to do. And in sports, like when I was coaching wrestling or football, when I was an intern with the U of O's strength and conditioning program, the athletes, the coaches, everybody is moving in the same direction. We want to win on Saturday. We want to win on Friday night. Everybody's moving. We all have different roles, but it's all one direction. It's to match the goal of the coach, of the team. In fatherhood, it's the complete opposite, because your son is not, or your daughter is not joining your journey. They're creating their own journey. They're setting their own mark. So now, instead of helping somebody move the direction that we want to go, we're helping somebody go in a direction that they want to go. And that is a completely different animal. And if we have the same mindset going into it that we do when we're coaching a team, it can be detrimental to our ability to understand our kids and help them make good decisions, and not just have them say, fuck you, dad, you don't understand, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah, interesting, man. Because you know, it's funny with my background, man. I almost look at myself as the most unept person to be a parent. Like, there's a lot of failing forward, like, you know, I'm like, who am I with this rough background that I've had to tell anybody, you know, how to or you know, rear children. So I always call it, like, it doesn't come with a handbook. I just do the best that I can, you know.
How old are your kids, Damon?
Yeah, so my oldest is 17 now. Holy smokes. I'm getting ready to be 18. And then my youngest, my two young ones are getting ready to be 6, and the other one is 5. So 6 and 5.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got a kind of a similar split. Charles was born when I was 18. He's 16 now. And then I've got the 4 and the 1-year-old. So it's yeah, it's fun to have that those kids in those different phases.
Mm,
What makes you say, can we drop in a little deeper?
sure, let's do it, man.
Okay.
I'm an
What makes you
Yeah.
say, because one of the things we're really working on putting in is faith in ourselves, faith in a higher power, faith in our kids' ability,
Mhm.
and faith in our ability to lead. So I notice in there, why do you believe you have some hesitancy or imposter syndrome about your positioning to lead your kids?
Yeah, so I'm obviously faith-based as well. And I think in terms of leading, um, in terms of leading or being a leader in my family, I don't think I have trouble with that. I think where I find myself probably falling short, if you're going to use the term leader, is like emotionally, mentally, right? Because again, the rough way that I was raised, like, man, my mom was she did the best with what she was given, but a very rough way to go growing up. My real dad was, my earliest kind of broken noses, broken ribs, those things came from my real dad. And then my stepdad was kind of like the shining light and all of that. World War II vet, great guy, phenomenal person, and was probably the shining light and all of that. But in growing up, I remember, all the yelling, all the, like the dysfunctionality of the household. And then you add all of the time in the military. Yeah, I learned how to be a really good leader, but there was a lot of dysfunctionality laced into all of that, right? What is the Marine Corps good for? I mean, you come to work Monday through Friday, you lead, you do what you need to do, but then on the weekends you're out drinking, you're left to your own devices, as a 20-year-old man who goes across to Tijuana, or, all of the irresponsible things that you can try to get away with. Like, those were the things that we were doing because, it was my first time out of the house. And like I said, I grew up like a really strict in terms of my dad with wrestling and, weight cutting and all of that stuff. So yeah, I think, obviously going to Iraq and Afghanistan, the chaos of all of that. And so I think what I mean by maybe unfit to be a leader or unfit as a parent is I don't want to gestate a lot of those things back into my children, right? That's a
Mm,
really tough thing for me. I try. I'm great in my professional life. Because of being a PTSD vet and all of that stuff, I dive into work, right? Everything is work. It is work, 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 work all day. And sometimes I forget, or conveniently forget, right, to place myself into those other places. So yeah, I think that's my biggest fear, is that I bring all of that dysfunctionality to my children, because I
mm,
want desperately to change the things that I didn't have. I want them to have.
yes. So it sounds like it's a, hey, you had a certain story that was written for you as a young man, and you want to rewrite it, but you haven't seen that movie to know how it should play out.
100%. Yeah.
Mm. So if it plays out the way that you want, what's your number one goal for your kids? Is like, they're 19 years old, they finished high school.
Yeah.
What's your dream for them?
Yeah. My dream for them is to create their own journey. I don't want them, you know, the things that I've done, um, you know, have created financial stability, right, that I didn't have when I was a kid. So I want my kids to be able to look at the world as that I can do what makes me happy, right? It's not necessarily I was like I have to go to the military because there's really no other choice, right? There were more have tos than like, hey, I'm going to do this because it makes me happy, right? So I think for my kids, it's to walk a path that they find happiness in and to write their own story, not to live necessarily the story that I have written out for them in my mind.
Do you feel like they're doing that right now for their age, right? So every kid, if yeah, I think you said you had a 6-year-old and you have a 17-year-old, they obviously have different levels
Yeah,
of independence. But
sure.
within that space, how do you feel like they're doing with like writing that story?
Well, yeah, my daughter, I definitely think she's found a space where she's got her own voice. And I think she's a great kid. She's off to college, this year. She's at least I think trying to walk the path that she wants to by, being a veterinarian or whatever. But I can't lie when, like her boyfriend is at the college that she's about to go to. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I really wish that you weren't headed there. I wish that you were headed to a place where you could create a little space between you and him and you know, um, maybe create your own chapter. And then if you guys find yourself back together in the next chapter, that would be great. So I see that happening, but I see, you know, I am the first to admit, man, when I came back from Iraq, I was an absolute accident waiting to happen. Yeah, I am nowhere near the man that I am today. Like I was on a crash course with, you know, it was chaos for lack of a better word. I mean, 3 tours in Iraq, one in Afghan. My mind was just not there. I was a terrible father when I first came back, and I've had to learn how
Mm,
to be a better father along the way. So that disconnection is there. I'm trying more and more to figure out how to create that connection. Hard, right? It's
mm,
I feel a little lost at times with how to do that with her.
mm. Tell
And
me,
in terms of my two other kids, just to answer your question, 6 and
yeah.
5. Oh man, I think I push them like they're both doing jujitsu right now. Like I don't care if they're world champions or whatever, but I do I do think I am hard on my kids. I am the first to admit that. I'm I think I have expectations of my children to be productive members of society. And so I think, man, sometimes I can push too hard because I don't want them to go through all of the trouble that I had to go through to get to where I'm at today. Right.
Yes.
And I'm more connected with them because they're in my current marriage where
Yeah.
my other daughter, my older one, is part of a marriage that, lapsed when I got out of the military. So it's much
Okay.
harder with,
Are you in the same town with mom as
yeah,
with
yeah,
17? That's good.
yeah, right down the road. Yep.
Cool. So you said, if I recall, you said with your 17-year-old daughter, what's her name?
Aubrey.
Aubrey. With Aubrey, you feel like you have a not connecting in the way that you'd like to. Like there's some blocks there from having the relationship of her really leaning into you in this phase that you'd like. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. There's that uh definite distance, right, in the connection, and I'd love for her to feel like she can lean in more because I want
Mm,
her. I think at the end of the day, right, I want my daughter to know that I am there for her no matter what. She can
yeah.
always find a place with me, right?
Yeah. And what do you think is causing that like friction that the connection's not where
Mm.
you want it?
Man, that's an interesting question, right? Because I feel like that's the constant battle, right? It's It's, well, is all of the stuff that uh happened. Sorry, man, I'm in my car, so if it's dark, I don't mean it to be dark. But yeah, sometimes, and I don't know if those are excuses, but I play back to, well, was it all of the stuff that happened to me when I was a kid? Is that what causes hesitancy? Or is it all of the stuff from the military? Or is it, the PTSD from Iraq and Afghanistan that is in the, causes that disconnection emotionally from the world anyway, right? It's hard. It's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah. It sounds like it's happening. If I'm like I'm reading between the lines correctly, it's happening not because the things that you are saying, but like the tonality, the reception, the energy and frequency between you and your interactions that is what you'd like to improve. Does that sound right?
Yeah, definitely. Because we all know, right? As they get older, they only move further away. The time that you to visit with them becomes less and less. And God, man, I feel myself like longing now at this age that, like I have to text her and like, hey, I haven't seen you in weeks. Where are you? I miss you. Come by. So it's funny, right? Where I think at the beginning of the road I thought I had all the time in the world. Now, as this road progresses, I find myself believing that I have so little time left. If I'm lucky, I've only got 20 or 30 more years left on this earth, man, and I'd love to find a place where I could connect with her, because golly, she was such an important piece of my life. I mean, that girl was born 9 months to the day of returning from my last tour in Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
She,
amazing.
she I mean, she was literally the thing that kept me grounded to the earth during probably the most chaotic time in my life. It's funny because people say, man, Iraq must have been so chaotic. I'm like, no, it's when I came back. That was the most chaotic time.
Wow. Yeah, the good thing that you have going, Damon, one is that you take ownership. I can tell from the way that you're reflecting on a problem. You're like, well, I have, you talk about yourself first. You're not talking about, oh, I've had dads like, well, my daughter has a bad attitude, and that's a lot harder to work through than like, oh, I've got blocks on my end. The other thing is I know it feels right now like, oh man, my daughter's 17, but you still have some time before she's off and away. And Lance can attest, we did some work with his daughter when she was like 22, and we made it happen.
Yeah.
But how much easier, Lance, would that be if she was 17?
Yeah, I mean, maybe because but she was such a wild child, though, man. I don't know. It could have been if I don't know. It's hard to say. She was such a wild kid, but yes, if she was like normal kids, it would have been. I know, but I get what you're saying. But yeah, but yeah, and I this was great. It was like a counseling session right here live, you guys. I mean, this was great. Like Thomas was able to ask Damon some questions. Damon engaged. Like, this is basically what a session looks like with us.
Yeah.
It's not like something that's crazy or super hard. It's just asking questions and getting you thinking and shifting, making some shifts in your approach with your kids. Really, that's it. And ownership, like Damon was taking ownership. I struggled with that because my kid is so wild. I mean, like everything and anything you could think of that you don't want your kid to do, that my kid did all that. Wrecking cars, drugs, alcohol, everything. Boys, right? And so I had a hard time taking ownership to my part of it, And it took me some time, man. And Thomas kept having to smack me in the head with a frying pan, basically, to get me to realize that I wasn't owning up to my portion of it. She's gonna do what she's gonna do, but I had to take extreme ownership for my upbringing and my shortcomings. So super important. But man, our relationship is night and day difference. When I realized that a lot of the struggles that she had wasn't about me. Like Thomas helped me realize that it wasn't about me. I was always making it about me, and I was always personal. She has like depression and anxiety, and she has some major struggles and major issues that she deals with. And so when she would go off on a rant, and I would call Thomas after some of these rants and just flip out, wig out, screaming, cussing, screaming, like just tearing me down, trying to tell me everything's my fault. And I didn't know how to handle that kind of stuff. And Thomas helped me realize that it wasn't me she was really mad at. She wasn't angry at me. She wasn't really yelling and cussing at me. She was mad at the world or another situation. And she just didn't know how to let that out. Right. And I didn't understand. Once I really understood that it really wasn't about me, I was able to just take myself out of the equation and just be there for her and and hold space for her. And it's completely changed our relationship, and it's been a really beautiful thing, man. And I can't thank you enough, dude, for that, and I wanted my wife to be on this Zoom so she could pop in and maybe say, like, because she started noticing, and she started noticing, and my daughter started saying things like, hey dad, I can tell you're really making some changes. And yeah, I'll have my wife hop on maybe a little bit in a few minutes when we do some Q&As. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I had
Damon,
one
go ahead.
Lance. Yeah. So here's what I find the funniest, right? Because this podcast about entrepreneurs and doing it differently and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think people come in and they see maybe me, or Lance or Justin or these guys we're connected with who you look at and you say like, man, those guys are successful investors. And yes, to some degree we are, right? But the funny thing is that like guys like Pace and, Ryan Pineda and all these guys talk about, really, really digging into this piece of your life, right? Like the hard stuff, right? Because to become successful, you have to work on every area of your life. And I like to kind of be vulnerable like that so that people realize, right? Like I'm not just focused on real estate. I'm not just focused on a business. I'm not focused on just those things. I am focused on trying to make myself better in every area of my life. To me, it is the most important thing. And it's funny that it took me all this time, right? I saved this portion, it seemingly until the end. When this portion should have probably been the very first thing, and I would have found success a lot sooner in my life, probably.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, Damon, thanks for sharing. And I appreciate what you're saying because it brings me back to jujitsu. It's like that one hole in your game. You're like, man, I really don't like being mounted. I'm not going to work on that part. I'm going to work around it. I'm going to work how to, shrimp to avoid it. But then like once you're in that position and really working on it, you realize, okay, really what I need to do is, even though it's not the part that is always the most we think is the most fun, but having success there, you realize, oh, okay, it's not as bad. It's actually pretty fun once we know what to do and how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. Yeah, man. It's extremely true, right? Like like again, going back to jujitsu, like those tough positions are the hardest things to work on. Like it is no fun, guys, being trapped under, a 300-pound or 220-pound guy and you're like mounted and you can't find your way out. Well, it's much like, but then once you figure out how to get out, right, it changes everything. And to me, it's much like this piece in your life when you've got, these difficult things in your background that are weighing you down, or, how to deal with your family or the people in your network or whatever. it's like the 300-pound gorilla, right? That is just sitting on your chest. And when you finally are able to get that thing off, it's probably the most freeing feeling. Like the money is so arbitrary now. Like it's like, man, how do I make my, like, the money, I have that, like, how do I make myself happy? How do I make myself closer to my kids? How do I enjoy all of the moments that I have left on this earth, man? Like, that's where I'm headed, you know?
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, health. I'm on the similar path as just being healthy in all areas of my life, and that's Thomas has played a crucial part of that. You know, like it's tough when you're struggling and you're just hitting your head against the wall over and over and over. And what you've done, because like you, Damon, I grew up in a similar environment, very violent, a lot of screaming, stuff being thrown, just really really loud before school every day and shit like that. And it was I didn't realize the impact it had on me, but it did. And I carried that into my family, yelling and screaming and getting angry. And it took me a long time to, get rid of that and break those chains, but
Mm,
it's crazy though, when you start really looking at your life and what you want in life and really starting to focus on all areas, being healthy and, physical fitness, finances, family, relationships, it's definitely, it changes the game, man, big time,
yeah.
this year's been a wild ride for us all, man. I'm really glad we're ending it with Thomas. This is a great, I think, the way to end the year, man. I really do.
Well, man, like, just, a question to pose to everyone. Like, don't you think that everyone deserves that in some way, right? Like, men deserve a mentor, a male mentor that can speak into their life and make them better, right? As do women, right? Women deserve a female mentor that can speak into their life to make them better. However, we all deserve that, but we have to be the ones to go search it out. And
Mhm.
that is what I find, right? Is it's that first step, right? That's the hardest one to take. Like, okay, now I've got to deal with that guy in the mirror.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I'm so thankful for, man, is I've been dealing with that guy since I came back from Iraq. And so now you hear, like, I'm at least comfortable with being transparent, right? Like, I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect, man. And anyways, maybe that's the best thing, right? Like, is you realize that you're not perfect, and oh, now I can take a step in the right direction,
I love that.
So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thomas, how can we find you? How can people reach out to you? What do you have any socials or anything that you'd like to I know you have your hands full, but maybe
The best thing, yeah, I've got Dads Who Lead Instagram, Dads Who Lead Facebook, very easy to find. Also dadswholead.com, you're gonna find a free leadership quiz that will tell you your leadership style and superpowers, common weaknesses within that style. And so that's a free gift to folks that just want to learn more about Dads Who Lead. So I encourage folks to go through the quiz. It's about 9 or 10 questions. So that's, if you want to get in and be connected in with our podcast, some other free content, that's a great spot to look.
awesome, man. Yeah, I actually signed up for a retreat with my son this summer in the Northwest.
Yes.
Right? Where are we going? You want
Yes.
to talk about a little bit about that retreat real quick, and then we can
Sure.
open up for some Q&A.
Sure. Let me do this. My 4-year-old
Yeah.
just woke up.
Cool.
Let me get them squared up, and then I'll be back and we'll drop into retreat stuff. How's that
Yeah,
sound?
sounds good,
All right,
man.
sweet.
Yeah, this
Well,
is like
now's a
this is gold, man. I love hearing
Yes.
I'm gonna set you up with a
I love
quiz, okay?
this topic, talking about parenting. I'm obviously on the other side of parenting when it comes to, parenting, raising children. We're empty nesters. My kids are already out of the home. So my relationship with my children is definitely different than most, probably individuals here where, you're still raising children, right? But I can certainly attest to what you guys have been talking about here and what you guys have been sharing. you know, there's a lot of things that you learn through parenting, you know, a lot of things that you look back in your life and you look back and you say, man, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. You know, the one thing that I have taken now, just even having these conversations with my children, right? It's like, how could I have been a better dad to you? Right? That hearing their feedback has been very powerful because yeah, I might not be able to make a change, right? But the hope for me is that they become better than I ever was as a parent. So one of the wins for me as a dad is that they'll surpass me as a dad, right? So whatever I did good, I want them to capitalize on that and be better. Whatever I did bad, I want them to learn from those things and be better. You know, and so having those conversations with my adult children have been very powerful. Going through, you know, those conversations about how I raised them and the things that I did, right, that were effective, the things that were not effective, the things that they enjoyed, the things that they didn't enjoy. We've gone through a lot in our relationships, you know, with regards to healing, with regards to discussing things that maybe you know, needed to be forgiven, right? Whether it was on my side, whether it was, you know, their side. But man, it's powerful. It's powerful, the conversations that you're going to have when you get to an adult status and have those conversations with your adult kids. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this
Thanks, buddy.
this show today, man. It's powerful.
It's difficult. I've had some of those conversations with my daughter, and that was one of my biggest struggles is she remembered things a lot different than I did, right? You know what I'm talking about. And you're going, oh, what? Like I had a really hard time swallowing some of those pills that she was kicking. I was like, no, that's not how it went down, but that's her reality, her truth. I had to accept that, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, bro. That was awesome, dude.
Yeah, man, I often wonder, but you know, because my daughter's 17 now, man, as she grows into that adult, you know, woman, like, oh man, I know those conversations are coming. Oh my goodness.
But it's healthy, man. It's healthy to have those conversations. You know, they need to happen, right? They need to happen to allow you know, some of the unresolved, you know, whether it be trauma or unresolved unforgiveness that needs to happen between us. You know, as
100%.
not only as parent-child relationship, but also as human beings and being family together.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Yep. The relationship is my pastor at Springfield Faith Center used to say, is the relationship more important than the problem, Lance? And I would go like, dang, you gonna come at me like that, bro? Yeah. Right. No, it never is. So
yeah, that was you know what, that was a great point. That was one of the most important lessons that I learned, is removing the sin from the sinner. And when you're raising children, that's all, you know, sometimes that's tough to do because you're trying to parent these kids, right, and trying to correct these kids and trying to show them right from wrong. But a lot of times we end up having a hard time separating the sin from the sinner. And so one of the things that I tried to always do for my children was that I always tried to make them understand that I was going to give them correction, but they were still loved. And so that was one thing that I always ended my conversation with, I love you. You know, even after it was like, you were grounded now, you know, whether it was maybe they got a spanking, whatever the case may be, but I finished the conversation with, I love you. And so at the end of that conversation, what I wanted them to understand is that there's going to be correction to your actions and what you've done that comes with consequences, but ultimately you're still loved, and I still love you very much. And so one of the things that I was able to take back as such a great kind of a trophy, if you will, is my wife and I actually just celebrated we kind of renewed our vows, if you will, in 2020, and they gave their speech. You know, both of my boys gave their speeches, and one of the things that they shared was that we love them unconditionally. And so we tried to make them understand that. And so for us to hear it coming back to us was a proud moment. It was a proud dad moment, right?
Emotional one, I bet.
Oh gosh, yes. It was, it was, man.
Awesome,
It definitely
man.
was.
That's amazing.
It was good.
Hey guys, I hate to cut off my time in here. I know this is the last one of the year. Y'all can keep going, obviously, without me.
Cool.
But man, my son, my 6-year-old son's in here doing jujitsu, and he's going against
Nice.
the having trouble with. It's time to go, coach.
Yeah.
It's driving
Let's
me
go.
crazy.
Nice to meet you,
Let's
Damon.
go.
Damon, let's
Thanks,
connect.
bro.
Man,
Let's connect
Yes.
soon, man.
appreciate you all. Yeah. Talk soon, man.
All right, buddy.
Later.
Yeah, Thomas, thank you so much, man. Good. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your retreats, what you've got coming up, and how you use those retreats to help, help us dads out.
Yes. So the father-son retreat is a really powerful experience, and it's powerful because it's not a, hey, we're going to tell you what to do and where to go. It's really about the dad and the son looking at their own journey as men and setting a fix, understanding what our barriers are in 2021, 2023, going into 2024 as men that we're facing. And it helps the son see that they're on the same masculine journey as their dad. They're just on a different chapter. So really our goal is to crack into everything with adventure. So we do whitewater rafting, we do rock climbing, we do activities where the focus isn't put on the pressure of, oh, it's a father-son retreat. We're going to talk about our problems and issues. It couldn't be further from the truth. We're going into adventure, and then with that experience, like last year, paintball, we had so many lessons. We had to all right, risk versus reward, leadership, planning, all of these lessons that we took out of playing paintball. But we played paintball first, and then we talked about, okay, how can we take what we learned from this adventure and become stronger men and stronger leaders? And so having an experience like this with your teenage son, it can be really like a rite of passage for him to feel that confidence that okay, one, he has that faith in himself. I know now, when was the last time you had 48 hours to really reflect on where am I going as a man? And then think about it, when you were 15 years old, did you have 48 hours where you could reflect on where am I going? And that confidence that gives the young men and the relationship between their dads, it's a really powerful transformation.
Am I on? Yeah. Okay. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. Did you guys have any questions for Thomas? Anyone have any questions for Thomas or
Yeah, we've
about
got,
his
20 folks on here. So I know a lot of folks that don't have their cameras on. Feel free to pipe in with a question if there's something coming up.
I've got
Yeah.
a question. I've got a question here.
Yeah, Justin.
Yeah. Hey,
my
Thomas. Good to meet you. You in the beginning of the podcast, you discussed the fact that, society, school, the military, all of these things create leaders that in their leadership they expect that the person under your leadership is working towards a common goal, right?
Yes.
A sort of a team sport, but that's not how a father-son or father-daughter relationship really works in that regard. What
Yes.
advice do you have that might to those that might be a revelation to you? I think that's a revelation to me. It's, you're right. We all over the years, team sports and school and all these things, it's, you're expected to do something. And I think as a father, I know a lot of us on here, we get rebellion from our children, and we expect them to do what we say and not to question it, and not and just get the things done that you want them to get done. But that's a big struggle for a lot of men, and I know it's a struggle for me. So what advice do you give in the mind shift of it not necessarily being a team like a team goal, but more of a two people on different paths?
Yes. Sorry, got a distraction. It's a really good question. I want to drop into what you said about rebellion. And anytime we experience kids pushing back against our leadership or rebelling, it's always because they feel pushed into a box. even if you look at movies like Braveheart, pushing for freedom, we're going to fight, we're going to die for freedom, the freedom to do what we want.
Mhm.
And so kids really innately, as they're growing up, they want more and more freedom. And if we're seen as a source of restriction of freedom, it can be it can really inhibit our ability to connect with our kids. I have a podcast called, I believe it's Why Kids Rebel. So that would be a great one to drop on that piece on rebellion. It goes a little deeper on it. As far as how can you help kids with the connection piece? How can you help kids with moving from, hey, all right, I'm not just telling you what to do, but where is it that you want to go? It comes down to asking questions. And it's not just having the right question, but it's having the right tonality, it's having the right energy and relationship with your kids, so that when you ask it, it's not like, well, what are you going to do after school, after you graduate? What do you want to do after you graduate? You know, there's two very different energies that come with that question. So finding a way to, in the space and timing, to ask them, where is it that you want to go? That's the number one thing, because most kids don't know. And if they don't know, that's okay. Like, as dads, because my son was the same way a year ago. He's like, it's like, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't know. And so one of the things I asked him after he said, I don't know. We were on a one-on-one trip. The next day I asked him, well, you said you weren't sure. Like, what is it that you don't want to do? Oh, well, I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to go to college. It's like, oh, okay. So now, and then about 2 months later, he's like, okay, this is what I want to do. So even if they don't answer the question to you directly, you might drop something in their mind that starts to spin and grows into, okay, where is it? Where is the direction that I'm wanting to move?
Gotcha.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. And the other question I had, I grew up much different than Lance and Damon. I have a very loving, stable household. My parents worked really hard to break the emotional cycle that they went through with their parents. Their emotional abuse, their trauma, their so on. I think that's translated very well to my life. But I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with, is really breaking that trauma and that cycle. And so what do you suggest people, it's always, you want to do this for yourself first, right? And so how do you suggest people get to that point, or how do you suggest trying to break that cycle?
Breaking the negative cycles.
Yeah, exactly. And not overcorrecting completely to, Damon was talking about that he didn't have a stable childhood, and so he's trying to make a very stable foundation for his children, right? And you don't want to go so far to one side or the other. You want to have freedom, but also have the stability and so on, right? So
it's like they need to have, it's the right amount of space. If you put the river too narrow and they don't have to make any adjustments along the way, it's too easy. But if it's too wide, they just get off and get lost. So it, like you said, it is a balancing act. If somebody's trying to rewrite the story, I think the first thing is, I just recently had a guest on, Steve Eckhart, and he also rewrote his story of having some trauma in his home. And I think it starts with saying, I want to change the story.
Right.
I want to write a new story for our family. I want to create a legacy that is going to be something new, something different. And then once you know that you want to change, it's something, we have so many distractions. We have dishes, work, our workout, our wife's needs, our kids' needs. The chance to actually really reflect, because it's not urgent. If we look back at Stephen Covey's quadrants, urgent, not important, but also not urgent. What is it that we want to write? What are the values that we want to instill? And that's something that, Lance and I have worked on over time. but that intentionality and taking some time consistently over time to look at where is it that I want to go, and am I going step by step in that direction with my family?
Great.
Yeah. Being intentional, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you have an older one, you have an older son and 2 younger ones. What do
Yes.
you know, I'm sure you're ever evolving on your journey. What do you plan to do differently with your youngers that you've learned
Ooh.
in fatherhood with your older?
That's a great question. I definitely will listen more, and I'm always one of the things I love about my 4-year-old will go rock climbing, and she'll climb and she'll get to the hold that's like the second from the top, and then she'll be like, all right, I'm ready to come down.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. For me as a guy, I'd be like, I've got to get to that top. Like, I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna keep hitting and grinding, and maybe I get it and maybe I don't, but my mind is so wrapped around finishing the thing, and she's just enjoying it. And so I want to really be sure to put my kids in positions early on that they're exploring and making their own decisions as much as possible early on. And Charles really does that on his own pretty well. He's very like, this word is seen as negative a lot, but oppositional. Like, all right, everybody, we're going to be going on this side of the fence. Are you okay? Did you fall off the horse? I think you're okay. Go on this side of the fence when we're walking. Charles, the kid in 3rd grade, like, oh, I'm gonna walk on the other side of the fence and see what happens, right? So for him, that comes natural. Obviously, like, Charles' mom and I weren't a fit. I'm still, you know, Megan and I now have like a beautiful relationship with our 2 younger kids, so that in itself is totally different because they don't experience the split household. So just keeping that strength with their mother is another thing, because being on the same page just makes such a difference. Because it's with Charles, I have to really, really be on my game, because there's always somebody on the other side of the coin who's maybe saying, like, questioning what I'm doing, like that little side, like, man, is my dad going too far? She'll be like, oh yeah, he is going too far. So I've got to be like really on my game with him. So yeah, we'll see how it unfolds, but I would say above everything else, early on, helping them to like kind of find their own decisions will be big.
Awesome.
Sweet.
And then real quick, I just want to honor everybody that's on here.
Yeah.
If you're staying to the end, I'll have a special offer opportunity for anybody that's a free opportunity for anybody that stays to the end of the call.
I love it.
We go.
We're almost done. I think we're almost done. Jesse Rocks Riggin, my wife, wanted to add, has a question or wanted to hop on and say something. Thank you, Justin. Great questions, bro.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Thomas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse. Hey there. Sorry, we have to mute his microphone so it doesn't turn into an echo chamber because I'm sitting right next to him.
Cool.
But thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on. You know, I try and give Lance his privacy, but every now and then, for whatever reason, I've been privy to your talk. So, you know, of course, as a woman, it's been interesting because just naturally the dynamics of you know, X versus Y chromosome, they're just completely different. But one of the things that I've really loved is just seeing just kind of like you just said, like allowing the everybody to kind of be who they are. You know, I think that for a long time, I think that Lance and I were stuck in our own heads about who we were supposed to be for the world and who our kids were supposed to be. And society, childhood, like whatever it was that gave us that perception. And I think part of it's ego, and to be able to watch you help us break that down in a way that was like loving and caring and gentle yet firm, especially with Lance, being able to help guide him and see things that, you know, just naturally as his partner for 20 years, I can't always correct because it's like pick, nag, has just been so valuable. You know, I've really loved it. You came to our house, you got to hang out. We had a lot of fun with you here. That was good stuff. But just being able to see like firsthand, you know, a lot of these people on tonight's Zoom are seeing you for the first time, but just seeing, you know, over the last, I feel like it's been almost a year, right? With Lance, you know, just the changes. And we went through a lot of changes, man. You took Lance on at a time where our life was like, meh. So, you had your work cut out for you. I feel like, you know, I feel like we should have paid you more. But don't take me up on that. No, but I just, it's been so fun to watch his growth and to just see who he is now, even though our kids are older, you know, not trying to look back and reflect too much on where we went wrong, because we can't really change that. All we can do is be in the now and continue to be better. So it was a good podcast tonight, and we just love you, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for the kind words. I'm getting a little bit of an echo there, but yeah, it's fun to work with folks like yourselves that you're intentional, you're playing big, don't make excuses, you just like find a way to improve. But you play hard. That's the fun thing is some folks will say, all right, we're gonna work on this, and then maybe they'll work on some things, but they're not taking risks and having conversations with their kids and doing things with their kids, and you guys are. And so the cool thing when you're playing the game, you get feedback and then you get to adjust new things with the new skills. It's just like a football player who's on the bench and isn't in the game playing. Like you can get coaching, but really it's only as good as much as you're playing. So having the balance between playing and being on the field, that's what makes y'all a lot of fun to work with.
Love that. Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Any other questions before we wrap this up, guys? Thomas, you've been amazing. Thank you for working with us. I know you today is not the greatest day for you, but you hopped on. You're a trooper, man. Your little
Make it happen.
baby girl is beautiful and she's super cute. So I hope everyone got some value tonight. Did you guys get some value? Can we give Thomas some love? Can we show him some love in the chat, guys?
Thank you.
Let's show Thomas some love. Thanks, bro. I hope Thomas, did you have anything else, brother? Or we're gonna let you get back to your family. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Let
you
me,
did have one more thing. Go ahead.
It's okay, just a second. So anyone who stayed to the end, I have an online course that taps into dealing with technology with your kids. I'd like to give that to everybody that's coming on the stay to the end, as well as a free 30-minute leadership call with me. So what I'm going to do is anybody that would like to take advantage of that, I'm going to put my, actually do this, just send your phone number into the chat or send it to me directly, and then I can text you the next steps from there to get you onto that group. And it's an online course. It's about 4 hours of content. You can finish it in about 3 days, depending on how aggressive you are with it. But it adds a lot of values if you're trying to get through that technology sticking point.
Sweet. Yeah. Awesome, man. That is great, Thomas. Thank you so much, man. Your time here, we appreciate your time. It's been a heck of a year, guys. I appreciate all the support, all the love that we've been getting from everyone following and members of our Facebook page. If you're not members already, go join our Facebook page, The Creative Collective Outside the Box. Justin has the YouTube channel in the chat there, guys. Go follow our YouTube channel. We love you guys. Wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year's, guys.
Lance, can you stick on for just a minute after?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
guys.
everybody, so much. It was an honor to meet you all.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Kind words, everybody. I just wanted to be sure to, I've got a lot of folks that dropped their phone number in the chat. I wanted to be sure
Save
to
the
take a
chat.
screenshot, or if you can save the chat and send it to me.
What, can you save the chat, hun?
I've just saved it. I can send it to you.
Thank you. I'm already out.
Okay, don't, honey, we got it. Justin's got it. We don't
I
need
got
your
it.
help. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll take a
Gonna
quick
get hit.
picture on
Whack.
my phone too while we're still on. Let's see here.
Okay.
Flip it just a second here.
Oh, let me
Looks
kinda
like-
stop the recording.
That was all of them.